When you made that, because you've had multiple job titles, so you've cooked professionally, and then the story goes that you came on as customer service at JB Prince, and
That's
then
correct. Yeah.
now you're CEO. And so when you're navigating all of those, I'll call them like career chapters, did you ever have this feeling of sunk cost? I think that's something that a lot of people grapple with, especially if they've decided to kind of change careers or they're just moving into a different role in the organization that they're in. They I often tell the story of when I got asked to be a manager, it felt like they took the knife out of my hand and they gave me a clipboard. And that was really hard for me to kind of grapple with because I was like, oh no, I've spent so much time learning how to cook, and now you don't want me to do this anymore. But from what I've been reading about you and from what I can kind of see of how you operate, you use it as an asset versus looking at it as, oh, this is sunk cost, I'm not going to use this anymore. So did you ever have those feelings?
Um, Me personally, no. I think some of that is, at the end of the day, JB Prince is still really it's a small family-run operation. And so we departmentally, it's symbiotic. You kind of always have to work with somebody, and as people kind of come up, you have to share, and in that sharing, in a weird way, I didn't think of it as a younger employee here, but I was, even mentoring people older than me at certain points. I know that sounds strange, but I just had a base of knowledge that they didn't have, and I was able to share and build, and build things with them collectively. So in my particular case, no, I did have moments as a younger person, and I've been here since 2000, so almost 22 years. When I was first starting on the customer service side, I did probably have some questions. I missed the cooking lifestyle a little bit because it is a lifestyle. Um, but then when you're on the beach on a Saturday morning with the people you love, you pinch yourself a little bit and it goes away. Um,
Yeah.
but but I think it's important too. But with that kind of piece in there, none of what I've had, none of my experiences or where I live at this point in my life at JB Prince would have happened unless I was behind the stove. What I mean, it was integral. So you need a little bit of all of it, I guess, is the reality.
We or at least I, and a lot of the writings, and it's easy to put an about section of, like that's the headline from customer service to CEO. What don't people know about that journey for you? Because that's easy to sum up in a tweet, but what doesn't get shared about that progression for you?
Um, it I think for me the most difficult part in here was trying to, in some respects, win people's respect, if you will. Um, I worked for Judith Prince and Larry Prince, who's the other principal owner here, um, and they had the benefit of founding the company and giving its direction early on. Most of the people that my whole staff I worked with, and so now all of a sudden they had to work for, and it was not easy. It wasn't easy for me, and I'm more than certain it wasn't easy for them, because I think the difficult thing about once you hit this level of management where you're kind of overseeing the whole operation, um, I think people automatically assume your door is closed, and you're less interested in what it is that they're doing, and that was kind of hard for me to adjust to because I felt like I derived a lot of who I was as a manager, as an employee, from interaction with others, and so um, once you kind of get to the level where the buck is apparently supposed to stop with you, people are a little bit more guarded. They want to share less. So that is, I think, a difficult part about being, or the most difficult part about being a CEO. And I think people don't, when they do share, they don't always feel like they have your complete attention. And for me, I really do try and listen and adapt and adjust and digest as much as I possibly can. But the other reality of it is timetables, and there's there's a long list, I guess, is the short part, and it's difficult to manage the list.
If you don't mind getting tactical with us for a moment here, because people listening might be in that same boat. They might be, you know, hey, I'm sous chef getting offered an executive chef position, or I'm going from lead line cook to AM sous chef, and that dynamic is going to be in play for me. The people who were previously my peers are now going to be the people that I'm in charge of leading and managing. And so when that transition happens, if you had to give advice for someone in that position, were there books that were helpful? Were there like clear skills that you identified, like, I'm lacking in these and there are resources that I used to overcome them? Is it just a put in the reps kind of thing? What was helpful for you?
I mean, I was kind of mostly on the job, I think, and I think I benefited greatly from having good managers, if you will, or good owners, who kind of taught me a lot. I will say, once you get to the management side, lists are very important. Make lots of lists. Stay organized. Um, be very explicit in your instruction. Don't generalize. And that for me has changed my life. And I have this line that I tell everyone I hire as a manager or as I promote and put into a position of authority, if you will. And it sounds condescending at first, and people look at me very, very strangely when I say it. But I say, talk to people like they're in kindergarten. And they're like, what? Like, I can't do that. These are adults. I'm like, yeah. I'm not saying you have to pat them on the head. And what I'm telling you is to give them instruction that leaves no details unturned. Because as soon as you are vague, it's just human nature. People will give you a vague reaction, a vague response, a vague result, if you will. So, and then measure things. You have to measure things, and you have to create processes that allow you to see what end results are, and that's where the lists come in handy. And I literally end every week with a list. I work through my list all week long, and on Friday, the last hour of the day, or whatever I deem is the last hour of
Yeah,
the week,
yeah.
I should say, I try and create a new one looking towards the next week. And
And you
those things
you
have been
just use pen
invaluable.
and paper.
Pen and paper.
You just use
Pen
pen
and
and
paper.
paper.
I mean, I have this conversation with younger employees here all the time. I'm a total weirdo. I mean, I think I'm on the cusp age-wise where PCs were very, very expensive for my family when they first were launching. So I wrote most of my college papers on a typewriter, but I have a tremendous appreciation for technology. But at the end of the day, like for me, there hasn't been much of a substitute for pen and paper. And so I keep a legal pad in my bag and I write stuff down. And then I'll transpose a lot of that into some digital environment. Uh, I'm, you know, I'm, I live and die by an Outlook calendar. And so a lot of that stuff goes in there. Um, and I think the advent of the smartphone has greatly improved my quality of life. But at the end of the day, I still haven't found a good substitute for pen and paper.
There's a thing that I adopted too, which is writing the prep list digitally, because I type faster than I can handwrite, but then I print the prep list and I keep that. If I'm doing a dinner, I keep the printed prep list there so that I can pen and paper, cross things off, do a little line and write a note. And yeah, there's something, there's a funny product that has been kind of making the rounds in the kind of like technology YouTuber space, which is a product called Analog, and it's a piece of paper that you can write your to-do list on. It's just so funny how things come full
Full
circle.
circle.
And it's
Yeah, yeah.
like we rediscover these,
Yeah, it's
tools or
it's
practices.
it's funny because I tend to host Thanksgiving in my house, and I guess old habits die hard, and so I have this like pre-created Thanksgiving prep list, and I like blue tape it to my wall in my house, and so like people come up and they're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "With that, you don't eat." That's the step one. That's the step one right there. And so it's like you
Uh,
become this thing. They're like, "I can't believe how long that list is." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what it is." Uh,
Repertoire, the Repertoire podcast. Repertoire.